How to Survive the Black Death, a medieval survival guide. Imagine waking up in 1348. The air is thick with fear. Bells toll, bodies pile up in the streets, and the word plague is whispered behind trembling hands. You're living through one of the deadliest pandemics in human history, the Black Death. But here's the real question. Could you survive it? Today, we're diving deep into what caused the plague, what life was like during that time, and most importantly, how to make it out alive. Welcome to Deadly History. Part 1. What was the Black Death? The Black Death wasn't just one disease, it was a combination of horrors. The most common form was bubonic plague, which caused massive, painful swellings called buboes around the neck, groin, or armpits. Then there was pneumonic plague, which infected the lungs and spread from person to person through coughing. And worst of all, septicemic plague, which infected the blood and could kill within a day. It was caused by a bacterium known as Yersinia pestis, carried by fleas that lived on rats. These rats were everywhere, on ships, in homes, in marketplaces. And once infected fleas started biting humans, it spread like wildfire. The plague first arrived in Europe in 1347, likely through trade ships docking in Sicily. From there, it exploded across the continent, wiping out between 25 to 50 million people in just a few years. Part 2. Life during the plague. Now, let's set the scene. Medieval Europe wasn't exactly the cleanest place. Cities were overcrowded, garbage was tossed into the streets, and there was little understanding of hygiene or medicine. Most people had no idea what germs were. Disease was often blamed on bad air, planetary alignments, or divine punishment. The fear was overwhelming. Entire towns were abandoned. Families locked themselves in their homes, sometimes leaving the sick behind. Others fled the cities for the countryside. There were even groups like the flagellants, who walked from town to town whipping themselves, believing the plague was God's wrath for humanity's sins. Some cities tried to fight the spread. Venice was one of the first to implement quarantine, from the Italian 40 giorni, meaning 40 days. Ships suspected of carrying plague were held at sea for over a month before passengers could come ashore. Unfortunately, medicine at the time was mostly superstition. Doctors wore those famous bird-like masks, filled with herbs and flowers. They believed the sweet smell would protect them from the bad air, or miasma, that supposedly caused the plague. Part 3. How to Survive. So, if you were somehow dropped into this world, how would you increase your chances of surviving? Let's break it down. 1. Get out of the city-urban areas where death traps. If you had the means, your best move would be to head to a remote village or estate, ideally far from trade routes. The fewer people you interacted with, the better. 2. Quarantine and isolate. Even without modern science, some people figured it out. Families who stayed indoors and avoided contact with outsiders often survived. In fact, some communities that closed themselves off entirely were spared altogether. 3. Cleanliness. Yes, really. Now, people back then didn't know about bacteria, but we do. Washing your hands, clothes, and living area regularly could have made a huge difference. Keep rats and fleas away. Even basic cleanliness would improve your odds dramatically. 4. Don't trust medieval medicine, leeches, bleeding, burning aromatic herbs. None of it helped. In fact, many treatments made things worse. If you fell sick, the best option would be rest, isolation, and hope. Trust your immune system, not 14th century cures. 5. Eat well and stay strong. A healthy body had a better chance of fighting off infection. If you were lucky enough to be wealthy, or grow your own food in the countryside, you could stay nourished and avoid the desperation that drove others to crowded food markets or infected cities. 6. Avoid funerals and religious gatherings. Mass gatherings were super-spreader events before we even had that term. Many people caught the plague while attending burials or church services. You'd want to avoid crowds at all costs, no matter how tempting community comfort may seem. 7. Don't blame or panic. Witch hunts and scapegoating were common. In some places, entire Jewish communities were falsely accused of poisoning wells and were murdered. Fear can be just as deadly as disease. Stay calm, keep your head down, and focus on survival. Interestingly enough, the Black Death may have actually changed the genetics of European populations. Some scientists believe it increased the presence of certain immune-related genes, genes that helped people resist not just plague, but later diseases. The massive population loss also shifted power dynamics. With fewer workers available, peasants could demand better wages. Some historians argue that the plague helped bring about the end of feudalism. Part 5. Modern Parallels. The Black Death may seem like distant history, but the lessons are shockingly relevant today. We've lived through our own modern pandemics, and we've seen how powerful quarantine, hygiene, and science can be in controlling disease. The difference? We have vaccines, antibiotics, and a deep understanding of microbes. They didn't. Yet fear, misinformation, and social breakdown? Those still happen, and they happened in 1348 too. So, could you have survived the Black Death? With modern knowledge and some common sense, maybe. But it would have been one of the hardest challenges in history. The world would never be the same after it. Cities shrank, economies changed, and society slowly, painfully evolved. Thanks for watching History Survival Guide. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with a fellow history lover. Let us know in the comments, what would you have done to survive the plague? Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and maybe avoid the 14th century.